Kính chào các anh chị và các bạn, rất vinh dự được chào đón các anh chị và các bạn đến với hội thảo MBA For Success ngày hôm nay. Đây là chuỗi webinar được khởi xướng bởi Viện ISB cùng Đại học Western Sydney Việt Nam với mục đích nâng cao nhận thức về tầm quan trọng của tinh thần học tập suốt đời đối với sự phát triển của mỗi cá nhân, bất kể bạn ở đâu, làm gì, chuyên môn nghề nghiệp như thế nào. Đó là lý do vì sao nhà trường luôn cố gắng để mời đến hội thảo những khách mời là các nhà lãnh đạo đã trải qua một hành trình dài học tập, trải nghiệm và dẫn dắt tổ chức của mình đạt được những thành tựu nhất định để chúng ta có cơ hội được lắng nghe và học hỏi thêm từ họ. Mình là Phương Anh, người đồng hành cùng các bạn trong buổi trò chuyện ngày hôm nay. Các bạn hẳn đã biết, trong ấn phẩm thứ 10 này của MBA For Success, chúng ta sẽ được gặp gỡ vị khách mời đặc biệt nào phải không ạ? Đó chính là chị Tammy Thi Phan, Head of Marketing Google Việt Nam. Chị Tammy sinh ra tại Quảng Nam, Việt Nam và đã cùng gia đình định cư tại Hoa Kỳ từ khi còn rất nhỏ. Chị đã học tập và làm việc trong môi trường quốc tế trong rất nhiều năm. Vì vậy, để chúng ta có thể được lắng nghe chị chia sẻ nhiều nhất về những viễn cảnh toàn cầu, hội thảo lần thứ 10 này ngôn ngữ giao tiếp chính sẽ là tiếng Anh. Nào, chúng ta cùng bắt đầu nhé! A very good morning once again to everyone, and welcome to our webinar MBA For Success. I am Phương Anh, and this is my pleasure for me to be here with you today. MBA For Success is a campaign initiated by International School of Business and Western Sydney University, Việt Nam in May 2020, with the purpose of raising awareness about lifelong learning spirit in each and every one of us, especially the young generation who play an important role in the development of our nation. Our guest speakers are successful leaders from across industries. They have been through a long learning journey and hold important positions of major organizations. And this is the 10th webinar with the presence of a very special guest from a multinational corporations, of which products have been used by billion and billion people around the world every day. Are you excited? So as usual, our webinar will start with an introduction video about our guest speaker. Then it will be followed by a sharing session between our guest speaker and Associate Professor Trần Hà Minh Quân, Executive Dean of ISB. And last but not least, a Q&A section with more opportunities for you to raise questions and get answers from our distinguished guests. And now, let's find out more about our beautiful and energetic guest speaker today. Yay, everyone, we are going to meet Tammy Thi Phan. She is now joining us from Singapore, where she has been living and working in the last few years with her beloved family. Kindly be informed that you are now able to send your questions in both English or Vietnamese in the question tab on your right-hand side. Our support team will select the best ones and send them to Dr. Quân and chị Tammy right away. I'm not going to let you wait any longer. Let's welcome chị Tammy and Dr. Quân on stage.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Phương Anh. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Yeah, good morning, Tammy.
Yeah, it's very nice to meet you again. How are you?
Doing very well. I hope you and your students and families are all doing very well.
Oh, yes, thank you. We are. We really appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules to join us this morning. And there are thousands of young people watching us live from many platforms at the moment. So I will go off stage and leave it for your good selves to start the conversation right away. So enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phương Anh. Yeah. Good morning, Tammy. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Okay. How everything in Singapore now?
Things are still pretty strict here in Singapore. Yeah, the restaurants have been closed for a couple of weeks, and only recently have they opened up for 2-person dining. How are things in Vietnam?
It's not very good condition, but everything's still under the control. and we hope everything can pass soon and people back to the normal day, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, even like how difficult, right? We are still here this morning to share with the audience about your career path and on your success in the Google. First of all, like even like Phương Anh already share a little bit about yourself, but let you have quick introduction about you and the audience can get more familiar. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. I will have to compliment that your team is excellent at searching for my professional background. I don't think you missed much. Your team's been phenomenal and been so delighted to work with them. So I think to start, I really would love to thank MBA For Success, Western Sydney University, International School of Business for this opportunity. And I know you have very, very busy MBA students. So to all the students who would rather spend a couple of hours on their Saturday morning hanging out with us, thank you so much for the time. A little bit about myself as the intro video and Phương Anh had shared. I am Vietnamese. I was born in Quảng Nam, but I grew up in the US. So if you look at my LinkedIn profile, it literally says born in Vietnam, or Vietnam born, US raised, internationally educated. And I remember I wrote this sentence maybe the year that LinkedIn was founded. I was one of the earlier users of LinkedIn. And
okay, cool. Yeah.
Hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in over a decade. So I describe myself as a lifelong global citizen committed to bringing capacity building, capital, and growth to emerging markets. So cool. That's a little bit about me professionally.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Just add on, like today we conduct the webinar in English, not only because like Tammy live long in overseas, but also we want the audience is more international for this version. Okay. Can we start by something like very, very fun, make the environment like it's good, like everyone always thinks about Google like the heaven, right? Especially in the working place. Can you share a little bit about the environment there, or some kind of pressure or enjoyment what you have at Google, and let the young people can dream about the opportunity in working at Google?
Well, first of all, you're so kind. Thank you for your high regard for Google. I think Google has been very privileged, and it is with a lot of hard work that Google remains one of the top employers globally. I frankly never thought I would work at Google. But even when I was going to school and all my friends went to join Google, I just never thought I would be at Google one day. So I definitely love the environment. Nothing like COVID and working from home to make you miss the office. So I can share with you back when we were in the office, the campus that we have in Singapore, first of all, is massive. There's so much energy if you just walk the halls. And it's intentionally designed that way so people feel comfortable and at ease being themselves at work, bringing themselves to work, having fun at work, and connecting with their colleagues that way. So one of the things I really miss is our ritual of TGIF. Every Friday we would get together, there would be DJs, food and drinks, and it was just to reward people for working really, really hard throughout the week and allow them to connect with their friends. So now I think without that physical environment of the office, Google is still a really special place to me. I think a lot of the spirit of the office of being together, taking care of one another, promoting awareness, self-balance, well-being is still very much part of Google's culture. The only difference is you just have to work a little bit harder to stay connected online.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Even like in the physical, like you mentioned, I also have experience work in the Google.
Yeah.
It's like even like I think like the environment for people can create something new, different play, and even like more than that, most of people work in Google is a top-notch people, and you have daily working with some people like that give you the energy, right? But in order to work at Google, like for example, can you share a bit besides of the thing that you mentioned, is the pressure, how you can create daily, especially for Google, always something new coming daily, right? Yeah. Any stress during the time you work, especially under the COVID, right?
I mean, I think you definitely called up a reality of working in a big company as well. I've mentioned all the fun stuff, but I think there are definitely moments of high stress and high pressure as well. You know, I can share personally from my experience of taking up this role, start of 2020. I started this role in marketing a couple of weeks before Vietnam got its very first COVID case, right? And that meant that whatever my job description was written to be, COVID completely changed that. There was no playbook for how do you respond to COVID. But fundamentally, you know, I see my role at Google is making sure that we do our best to show up for our users in Vietnam every day, in the day-to-day, as well as in moments of crisis. And COVID definitely took us by surprise. It was really important to us that we moved really fast. We get a lot of authoritative information, helpful information out to our users. We do campaigns that raise their awareness about how to stay safe. And when you have so much urgency because your mission is so time sensitive, it definitely adds to a lot of pressure. But I think to navigate that in any setting you're in, whether it's at Google or elsewhere, to overcome that, I think number one, being comfortable with ambiguity. Like, you're always going to be thrown into situations that you're like, there's no blueprint, there's no playbook for this, but be okay with figuring it out along the way. And I think for a lot of us globally, we had to suddenly work from home, study at home, parent at home, and like just shift so many things home, that there is also that personal toll of adjusting to the new normal, right? And when I was looking at our recent year-end search reports, even in Vietnam, we saw that searches for how do you relieve stress went up by over 100% year over year. So when I say this, I can definitely relate to many people who went through very stressful periods. I think working at Google's taught me to, I don't know, just be really kind to myself. You know, be really kind to others. Yes, everyone is trying to do their best in this climate. The best you can do is show up with your best intention, with your willingness to help and contribute as much as you can. And at the end of the day, acknowledge how much you've already done versus how much more there is to go, because there's still so much more work ahead. So I hope that helps for anyone who's feeling a little bit of pressure and stress at any point at Google or not.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you remind me the sharing of Bill Gates about like the feeling of like accomplishment daily. Every day, if you like accomplish something, that makes you feel like really positive, right? And even in any condition, we try our best in order to accomplish something. Then, especially in the work or life, you know,
Yes, exactly. Like if you visualize like, okay, this is my goal, and you just focus on like the end goal without recognizing how much like progress you've made, it's very easy to feel stressed and burned out and incomplete and underaccomplished. But just really acknowledge and celebrate the milestones and progress every day.
Okay, cool. Everyone, I think like can learn from that, and also like you try to be, not try to be, I think like we need to be positive in any condition, right? And for Google, like I think like really changed the people behavior for last like 20 years, you know, even like 17 years Google appeared. But like currently, like can you share a little bit about the current project of Google in order to coming soon, especially for Vietnam market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first of all, you're right to acknowledge that Google has really fundamentally helped shape the way people spend their time online. I think one of our most helpful products has been and will continue to be Google Search, right? Like Google Search for me is where I go just to make sense of the world a lot of the times, right? It's really where I go to check facts and data. And so in the context of COVID, when we think about search as a destination for people to make sense of the world, one project that's super important to me and my team is making sure that search offers reliable, credible, authoritative information. And so one project that we've been working on and will continue to work on is with the Ministry of Health.
Oh, yeah.
So we work with them to surface the most authoritative information, to also fight misinformation or disinformation. Like, we want people to get the right information that they need with regards to their safety for COVID. We also do that on YouTube. It was amazing to see the Ministry of Health reach out to us and say, like, hey, Google, can you help me start my YouTube channel? Right? And we've been doing a lot of great videos and public service announcements to help Vietnamese citizens stay safe.
Yep.
A second pillar that's really important to me and my team is actively working on is helping businesses get back on their feet, or sometimes with young people, helping them get started with their first business. And so we do that in a number of ways. One is we are committed to training 500,000 business seekers, job seekers, small business owners on digital skills that they need to succeed. And two, acknowledging that tourism has been completely hurt by COVID.
Yeah, correct.
Like, we don't know when the borders are going to reopen. I see some signs so far, but during this time when things are really quiet, we've been helping like SMB, small businesses in the travel sector, get ready to be online. And I'm from Central Vietnam, as you know, I'm from Vietnam. And one of the proudest projects that I've launched is with Google Arts and Culture.
Okay.
It's a global platform where if you go on the app or on the website, you can explore like museums, arts, and just wonders all around the world. And we were able to put the wonders of Vietnam onto this global platform so that Vietnamese people anywhere in the world feel really proud of the region. And we launched this during the flood, which was very unfortunate, but hopefully it inspired people to visit one day when it's very safe. And the last thing that I'm working on that I'm very happy to share is coming soon specifically for Vietnam is a program that's focused on helping kids stay safer online. Right, I have 2 young kids. As you know, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and summer vacations is here. I'll admit they spend a lot of time online, supervised of course, but imagine all the families and all the parents who are trying to help their kids navigate life online. Our program that's coming soon focuses on how do we help kids and families really thrive online, not just stay safe, but really be productive. So that should be coming soon. It's a global program that we're bringing to Vietnam.
Yeah, cool. And I think this chance can help we do the branding for Vietnamese tourism, right? Everyone can know more about Vietnam and get excited, and hope they can come soon in near future. And also, like the last project you mentioned is very good, and maybe for education we can contribute something, especially now online study become very popular. Even like I think when the COVID over, back to the normal, but I think this will be replaced the blended mode, always we combine online and offline. And even in education, we can see that the online education also very effective. And we can develop in different angle aspect in order to maximize the benefit. And if we combine with the offline, especially for not the young kids, but like for the university student, anything, we can and let them have like different experience. But I think it's very meaningful, right? Anyway, we can see the opportunity in the crisis. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love what you said, opportunity in crisis. And just touching on education, Google does have a program called Google for Education. And during COVID and the first wave, when schools were locked down, we were trying to get as many schools on board our Google for Education collaboration tools as much as possible. It's free for schools and universities. But the challenge is getting that knowledge out to teachers and then getting the adoption with students. So I see this as a massive opportunity for us to work closely with universities to help you adopt the necessary tools.
Yeah, okay, cool. Then when the customer and people change the behavior like that, as the marketers, like you have long experience in that, can you share a little bit about like how current day the marketers have to adapt with like more digital approach for their branding or sales or whatever, right? And I want you to share a bit for our marketers, especially for the young marketer in Vietnam.
Well, I think with great marketing, any kind of marketing, I think it first starts with knowing the changes in consumer mindsets and consumer trends. Right, at Google, we have this mantra, and it goes, know the user, know the magic, connect the two. And it's a really simple formula. But I think the reason I want to share it is because I think hopefully it's easy to remember, and it's very intuitive as you go into any kind of marketing, right? It starts with knowing the user, like really understanding who are the real people behind your products, how are they using it, and then, you know, trying to get as close as possible to the users. So that's why we offer tools like Google Trends, right? Because there's nothing more honest than the way people search for information, for example. So I really encourage all marketers to just start there. Start with your end users and understand their insight, their lived experience. It could be really different from your lived experience. And then have that insight and that data to get closer to them. And then, like, how do you get closer to them is when you're trying to connect the two. You're trying to bring your product to meet the user needs. And connecting the two can take many forms, right? When you bring your product to market, or you want to connect with your consumers or your audience with your message. For this, I think it's really important that marketers think about how to do it in a really relevant way, in a really useful way, and I think above all, in a really respectful way. So the conversation that we've been having around digital marketing is around a privacy-first future, really respecting the end user's preference for their privacy. And this requires, I think, digital marketers to really stay current with these type of shifting trends, as well as the latest technologies that can help you do that in a really respectful way.
Yeah, okay. A little bit more detail, for example, definitely understand the inside customer, very important.
Right.
Then from the Google, what kinds of tool or techniques currently provide more the tool for the marketer in order to do it better?
Yeah, so we have a number of different training programs. We have a tool called Skillshop. You can go online, Google it, and you can find out more about it. But I think if you're like brand new to digital marketing and you want to get started, this is a great place. It's offered in English, it's offered in Vietnamese, and it will walk you through, first of all, what are your business objectives? Like, do you want to grow your brand? Do you want to grow your reach? Do you want to grow your sales, etc.? Do you want to launch your app? Right, and so you can learn based on business objectives. So start there, and then from there, for anyone who really wants to get hands-on experience, let's say post-undergrad, post-MBA, one of the best ways to learn is to work with any of the top agencies in Vietnam. And for that, we're very privileged to have a network of agencies across Vietnam who know digital marketing and they know Google marketing. So just a couple of weeks ago, we've launched a program called Digital Guru. And it's not the first year. We've been doing this many years, but the content is constantly updated. And so this year we're coming out, we're talking about a lot of brand new solutions. We dedicate 3-4 days for the cohort, and we pick the top marketers from the top agencies to participate in this program. And they continue that training for about 6 months with us until they get certified and they become what we call gurus or digital experts in Vietnam. So that is available for anyone really interested in going deeper into digital marketing later on.
Yeah, that's good news for everyone, right? And as a marketer, we need to learn daily, especially for the new technology come from like Google. But like I just mentioned, like a lot of the, especially for the small and medium company, they don't really well prepared in terms of fully understand about like Google marketing. They try to adapt some kinds of the skill in order to do it. For example, like optimal the search engine, right? But for that, do you have any advice for the marketers in terms of like, because like, for example, some people try to learn how Google change daily about like optimal, but like compared to the way they should focus more in their product and they have the right content for the end user. how to balance about that, and in order to get like the best performance of like Google marketing, something like that. Yeah.
Got it. Well, I think the answer to that is depending on what kind of role you want to play.
Yeah.
Right? Typically, if you're a marketer for a brand, you would be at like the strategic level where ideally you are, again, knowing your users, knowing the value proposition and strength, what we call magic of your products and how it meets the user's needs, and then connecting the two through a campaign strategy, right? Like, for example, what is the user's pain point and how does your product solve that pain point? And how do you communicate that in a campaign that really resonates? So hopefully, I think for a lot of MBA graduates, their role is going to be more of that strategic marketer. And then for the part that is about like campaign optimization, campaign setup, I would entrust that to practitioners. And if you want to become a practitioner, that's excellent. We need more practitioners. They're great professions, right? And then that requires you to really have hands-on practice, run a couple of campaigns yourself, and stay really current with the latest of the advertising stack, right? More and more automation is built into certain campaigns because it's really nearly impossible for a human to stay on top of like all the shifting data points and inputs and like to constantly change your campaign. So instead, that's why a lot of our campaigns or campaign settings actually by default are built with automation in mind, right? Built with automation in mind so that you can have more real-time responses when the campaign is optimizing, and it frees up the marketer to think really strategically around like the bigger picture of the campaign.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Then from that, like for in order to adapt, what kinds of skill you think the marketer needs to develop nowadays?
To adapt as a digital marketer, or just adapt in general?
In general, especially, yeah.
In general, yeah, I think adaptability is like a must-have skill if you want to succeed in business or pretty much anywhere. Like, forget just digital marketing, just anywhere. And I think my experience as an immigrant from Vietnam to the US was probably my first time where I learned to adapt. It gave me like the confidence and the muscle to then know that I could do it again. And so I did it again about more than 10 years ago when I decided to immigrate from the US back to Asia. And so, you know, for anyone who is wondering like, hey, what is this like one skill that I should focus on trying to master and practice? I would say it's growth mindset combined with learning how to learn. You have to learn how to learn in order to constantly be adapting and applying new skills, acquiring new skills. And I'll just share like a personal example recently when I think I've done that. Right? I've been at Google for about 6 years, but I'm on my third role at Google. I've had 3 jobs at Google so far, right? The first job I had at Google was to lead our channel sales business. I guarantee you, I had never worked in tech before Google. I had come from like financial services and like a very traditional financial services company, right? So I remember, you know, going up for my first job at Google without a tech background, and the first thing I had to learn was how Google ads work. You had to know the product, right? And then eventually I had to learn it well enough so that I can work with a network of CEOs across Vietnam to help coach them in offering Google ads to help small and medium-sized businesses grow. So that was my first job at Google that miraculously I got. And
very surprised. Just 6 years you start from know how to do the Google ads. Now you head of marketing Vietnam.
And that's the opportunity, right? Like, it's okay if you don't know something now. Just add the word "yet" at the end, and you can just say, "I don't know this yet," and trust that you will learn. The second job I had with Google was to do head of business development for all of Southeast Asia. Right. So by now I knew what it was like to work in Vietnam. I had no idea what it was like to work in Indonesia or in Thailand, the cultural nuances, overcoming the language barriers, or how to do, you know, product partnership. Because before I was doing sales partnership, and then I went on to do product partnerships. And I don't have an engineering background, right? But I had to learn, like, how do API calls work? How do you design a minimum viable product? How do you beta test it? How do you take it to market? For that, I remember I went back to school. I like signed up for an evening online class with Co-op, which has an amazing program for like product developers. And then from product development, it then gave me a confidence to then go into now product marketing. I'll be really honest, Dr. Wang, like now that I lead marketing for Google, and I have the advantage of knowing Google's products, and I have the advantage of knowing Vietnam, when I went up for the role, I still thought it took so much courage, like so much guts, because there were so many qualified, amazing talent who were all going for the position, right? And so I think all the stories that I shared were just examples of, you know, you don't have to be perfect or fully ready for the job. You just need to be willing to work really hard to do the job well. And that requires this hunger and this desire and this confidence that you may not know something yet, but you will learn. And so my number one advice is, if you want to succeed anywhere, just have that confidence and bet on yourself that, hey, if given the chance, you're going to put in the work and you're going to contribute your best, and your best is probably really good.
Then that's very rich sharing, because and from that people also can see that when the employer look at the talent, they not only based on the past experience, right? Then from that, like how they can look at, even like for you start something new, but you can adapt and learn, then it makes you become like today, right? Cool, very good. Then don't you think that the ability you just mentioned, even the learning abilities or adaptabilities from life, or how MBA, where you did in the INSEAD, I think like one of the top MBA program in the world, right? I want to let you share with the audience like how the MBA help you in terms of build up that kind of skill.
Yeah, I mean, my MBA was the best investment I made on myself. And I think, you know, when everyone applies to an MBA, the question that you're asked is why. And I think everyone has their different reasons for why they're in an MBA. You know, for me personally, it was because I really wanted to round out my business education, right? Like I'd gone to Stanford, but I was pre-med at Stanford. I studied human biology. And then I went into consulting thinking like, hey, consulting is going to help me learn business. But what was happening in my career in consulting was I was becoming too specialized too early in my career, right? Like a couple of years later at Accenture, I realized I was becoming an expert in organizational design and organizational strategy, which is a really important skill set, but it wasn't giving me a very, very holistic business education, like a business foundation. So for me, I went back to school, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to study at INSEAD because of, number one, the learning. I think number two is the network, right? Like I have a US network. I'm very confident that I can go back to the US and tap on my network there. So being part of like an international school like INSEAD or, you know, ISB or like, you know, Western Sydney in this case, be in an environment where you can be exposed to people from all over the world. That network is going to teach you so much about how do you work with different cultures, with different styles and different personalities. And the cool thing is after you graduate, you can find friends in like every major city that you go to around the world, right? And the number three reason that the MBA was important for me, on top of the network and the learning, was like what it meant in the job market, right? Remember what I just said about that learn to learn?
Yeah.
That's a huge skill set to have. And I think employers, myself when I interview, look for this. I look for people who are really lifelong learners. And if you invest in an MBA, it tells me so early on that, hey, this is a person who's really invested in their education, is really willing to learn, is capable of learning. And I think that's why the MBA is such like a powerful signaling tool to employers and job markets. Because it's not about what you know today. It's about your ability to keep learning and adapting.
And maybe you come from the different background than business. When you start the MBA, any difficulties? But I can see that how you learn how to learn, right? Yeah, that's something.
You gotta learn how to learn. I think that you gotta know how to problem solve.
Okay, yeah.
And then you gotta convince other people you can do it.
Okay.
And so, if Dr. Wong, I can share with you, I can share how I got my first job in business.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Okay, so the story is I grew up thinking I want to be a doctor. Like from the second grade, since I was second grade, I told my dad I'm going to become a doctor. That's all I wanted to do. I graduated high school, and he even like put it in the newspaper. It was very embarrassing that I would one day become a doctor. And then that by my third year at Stanford, I just had a change of heart. You know, I had done research in hospitals, I've gone on medical missions, I've worked in operating rooms, and I knew by exploring that path that I could have done medicine, I could have been a doctor, but I wasn't going to be, I think, fully happy being exposed to blood, being exposed to human suffering. I have so much respect for doctors, immense respect. And it was hard for me to accept that. That's fine, I'm not going to become a doctor. So then I explored different jobs. Consulting was top of my list. And I remember my first job interview, and the interviewer asked, what makes you think you have the right skills for consulting? And he didn't mean it in a mean way, but it was a great answer. And the truth was I hadn't done any internship. I had decided so late in my college degree to pivot that I wasn't on paper like all the other kids who had done internships and all that stuff. So I can just remember saying, I haven't worked in consulting yet, you know, but my work as a pre-med student gave me the foundational skills that I think you would want and need in a consultant, right? Which is, I know how to listen to my patients very carefully to understand what their problems are, right? I love helping them solve their problems. And I do it in a way that makes them feel really comfortable to trust me with my recommendations. Like, isn't that what you want in a consultant? And I thought that answer was probably what got me the job, because nothing else on paper would have made me a strong fit like all the other kids. So that little story there, right, just shows that you just gotta bring that transferable skills wherever you go, you know, like listen, problem solve, communicate, and you'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, that's very good. Then I think like people don't look for something very special for MBA. Very simple. Yeah, but however, like the environment working with like the other student in the class of MBA can really develop and help you. The piece of paper doesn't mean much, but what you learn from that very important, right?
Absolutely.
Especially for like Tammy, she comes from different backgrounds. She never studied business before, but she can study the business in the top school in the world for MBA, right? But like you mentioned, one of important benefits of MBA is the networking, right? And a lot of other guests also share how important of the alumni network. But I want to know more than that, because I just heard that you are one of the people in the founded of LinkedIn, and also you very active in LinkedIn. Then yeah, I want you to share about the networking from your alumni network, and also how you can develop the networking through LinkedIn or some other social media.
That's so funny that you're asking me for advice for how to network. No, just because, you know, there's networking and there's building relationships. And I index more on building relationships, right? So I think, first of all, you see me so active on LinkedIn because I'm a marketer and I need to market what we're doing and why it's good for our customers and our users, right? So that is very, honestly, the intent. I want people to know the great work we're doing so that they can use the programs or the benefits, etc. But I don't network a lot on LinkedIn. I think the reason is because it's like too much information or like too much people outreaching sometimes, and I'm not able to respond super timely, or I'm not able to go really deep with them. So I try to be really mindful about when I make connections with people, because we all have limited time. I definitely have limited time span, like attention span as well. So when I invest in my relationships, I think about, how is it that I can help you? First and foremost, am I in a position to help you? Are you then in a position to later help somebody else? That's typically my formula for thinking, do I invest time in this relationship? It's not, how do I help you and then later you help me, right? Because a lot of the times people are just reaching out because they need something in that moment. And I, in my alumni network, am not like, I don't go to the drinks, I don't go to the webinars, I'm not at these events much. But when people reach out to me and they do it in a really authentic way, then that's when I tend to really, really open up and give back. Because again, that first question, how am I in a position to help you, and will you in the future help somebody else? So I do this, for example, with people that I have built really strong bonds with during my MBA. You know, the people that you want to hang with, drink with, party with, study with, chat with, those are the relationships that you should really be investing in now, so that in the future when they're reaching out to you, it's a friend who's reaching out to you. It's not just somebody in your network, right? And so that's really important for me, like that personal connection. And then the second part is, you know, like, can we have a ripple effect? That it's not like a contract or anything, but there's a mutual understanding that, like, if I can help this person now, they will go on and help somebody else. And I think that's really important. I hope that answers your question. I'm not a great networker.
Very good. Yeah, I really like your answers. Number one, like, people need to think about like building the relationship, right? The quality of relationship more important, but we don't intend to do it because like just don't apply the technical. Do it like, for example, every day you send the friend request and you can have how many people in your network. You do it by your heart. For example, like Tammy just mentioned, whatever you think you can share and contribute that may help people, then you are very carefully into do it, then people can reckon that. Then I like the term building the relationship more than just like networking. Yeah, thank you very much, Tammy. And I think like everyone can learn from that. And definitely the network, when we have the MBA, the friendship during the time we study, or even like alumni network, is some kind of relationship we need to develop. Then definitely through that you can have the very number one, friend in life, and number two, definitely the business partner one day. We never know, right? Yeah, and that's why people need to really develop and make that happen. And a lot of questions coming, and that's why I have the last question, the last topic about like even like we talk about the pressure of the environment currently change, and many things in life. But in Google, I found that they have one of the very successful program called Search Inside Yourself.
Yeah.
To teach the employee more about the mindfulness. Can you say a little bit about that? And about yourself in terms of like how you think about the well-being, balance on work, life, and personal, right? And I think that's also good for the audience to learn from your own experience, and especially for the program from Google.
That's great. Such a great question to end on. Yeah, so I think at Google, I've learned to become more and more mindful. I think it's thanks to programs like Search Inside Yourself, or, you know, our coaching or our mentoring program. But at the heart of it, it's helping people find answers within themselves and find peace in themselves, and do it in a way that's really, really empowering. Right, I think, for example, it's very easy when you're in a corporate setting to feel frustrated, to feel disappointed. You're all MBAs. I mean, you're already high achievers as it is. And when you put high achievers together, they're going to have really high expectations of themselves, and sometimes, frankly, be really demanding and hard on themselves. And I think that tension with like high expectation, with honestly limited energy, limited resources, limited time, often comes into friction. That's where a lot of like, I think, stress come up. And so programs like Search Inside Yourself, or even coaching in general, look at you really asking like, what's important to you, right? Is it really important? And then second, helping you explore why is it important to you? Because we sometimes say something is important, but we don't challenge why. Like, for example, why is it important for you to get to the top MBA? Why is it important for you to get promoted like 6 months ahead of your peer? Like, why is it important that you need this external validation or this award or whatever drives you at work? And I think that ability to examine like why can be really liberating when you realize it's probably informed by some kind of lived experience that you've had, or like a sub-personality that's part of like your very complicated personality. And then once you can recognize that is a sub-personality, or like it's that voice. I have many different voices, but it's like that particular voice that drives this type of behavior. You can then see it for what it is and then choose your next path, right? You can choose to be stressed out. You can choose to acknowledge it and then move on with a certain amount of like freedom and detachment. But at the heart of it, it's like being more aware and mindful about what's going on inside of you internally and why, and then deciding what you want to do with it. And I think that deciding what you want to do with it and how you want to behave and how you want to show up is what's going to put you back in the driver's seat, where you can be more in control of your life, right? More control of your career decisions, more control of your behaviors, just more in control of your thoughts. And so I really have benefited from programs like coaching, which I wish all MBA schools actually taught. I wish coaching as a skill was actually in all school and curriculum, right? Because once you're able to do that, it just gives you so much self-confidence and trust in yourself that, you know, you're going to make the right decisions that's right for you. You don't have to, you know, push yourself to certain artificial limits that just doesn't feel intrinsically motivating to you. Yeah, and then you're just going to feel more empowered overall just to take life back in control, take control of your life. So that's why I think at Google, we also encourage our managers to become coaches, right? Because there's a difference between managing and coaching. Managing is kind of like holding people accountable, telling them what they're going to do and assigning work and stuff. But coaching is a completely different type of relationship where you ask the right questions, you try to understand the person more, and you help them get to the answer themselves so that they become very, you know, self-reassured.
Yeah. Then I think very lucky for someone work under you.
I hope so. I try.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, Tammy. I think like that sharing very meaningful even for me. And I think for the young generation, you can learn from that, especially under the pressure of the current environment. Everyone hurry, everyone stressed. But the more pressure, you need to like more calm and try to understand yourself, right?
Yeah.
Take the advice like Tammy just mentioned. Okay. Then yeah, definitely my person, I want to have more questions for you, but we need to look at some audience. Okay. They have some question for you. The number one, yeah, okay. Even like I know that you come for the marketer, not by intention, but anyway, how did Miss Tammy find the passion for digital marketers and Google also?
That's a great question. I think, I frankly think those opportunities found me.
Yeah.
I really did. Because honestly, I didn't go to school wanting to become, listen, I had nowhere in my career plan become head of marketing for Google Vietnam one day.
Yeah.
And it's really just like a series of steps along the way. So pay attention when those opportunities come knocking on your door and be open to it, right? So for me, I got into Google because a friend of mine recommended me for it.
Yeah.
For that first job that I told you about. And
Yeah.
you know, even though I had some self-doubts, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. It's so hard getting to Google, Just went for it. Just try. You never know. Just try. And then for me, how did I get into digital marketing? Well, I mean, anybody like offering Google ads at Google does digital marketing, but how did I become a marketer at Google? I think similar situation. The opportunity found me right as I was also looking for the next big challenge. And it also took strong sponsors of mine. So like senior people at Google, again, knocking on my door. I got a phone call at 11 p.m. From one of my sponsors and my mentor and now my friend, who was like, I think you'd be really good at this role. And I remember saying like, oh, but I haven't done marketing before, and and again, that voice that tells you like you're not perfect for the job yet. You're not perfect for the job. And she was like, just go for it. Like you never know. Yeah. And so that was a great advice that I got. Listen, you just gotta go for it. When you go for it, you gotta like show up, be prepared, do your homework, research, know who you're talking to, and all this stuff that's involved in like a great interview preparation. But if you're willing to put in the work and represent yourself and give yourself the best shot, you'll be really surprised. So that's how I came to that's how I came to Google. That's how I came to this job. And then once you have that opportunity, just make the most of it. Like I love my job. I honestly love my job because I find so much meaning and purpose in what I'm doing. And I hope for every single one of like you MBA graduates, you find that in your next career step as well. And it may take several steps before you can get there, and that's okay.
Yeah, cool. I found that you and I, we have a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
I start my in high school, I plan to be the doctor like you.
Oh, really?
And I started to study business. Then I never think I become the academic version. Then after that, but anyway, now I back and become the professor at university. And like we never know where we go. Vietnamese, they have the audience that the job, sometimes a job fire you rather than you fire a job, right? So anyway, I just do the best and well prepare for any opportunities. Okay, mindful with your opportunities, and you can find something really suits you, and you can perform the best and enjoy your life, right? Another question, what are the difficulties when leading a global team in global working environment? And your advice for young in Vietnam to prepare for future working in global environment? Yeah.
What difficulties are there in a working environment? It's a great question.
Yeah. For example, currently you're based in Singapore and you lead the marketing of Google in Vietnam and maybe in Asian, right?
Yeah.
Then from that, and again, like from beginning of the talk, I mentioned you are working with the top talent employee in the world, right? Any pressure for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I could probably answer best in the current context that I know, right? I see my role as a bridge between Vietnam and the rest of the world, right? One part of my job requires me to know Vietnam intimately, know our users, know what's happening on the ground, be locally relevant so that we're able to show up and connect with our users in a very, very helpful way. So I think number one, if you in the future are going to be in a local/regional role, that local market insight is incredibly valuable. So that's number one. I think number two is now how do you take all that insight and knowledge and learning and progress and confidence that you have in your country and communicate it to other people who don't share your insights yet. So I think number two here is invest in communication as a skill.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just like learn English. Like Vietnamese students are very good at being fluent in English, Korean, Japanese. You're very, very talented linguistically. What I mean in invest in communication is learn to speak in the different style of your audience, right? It means how do you do a verbal presentation? How do you have your pitch deck ready? How do you have a tight memo? And then how do you flex your style depending on your audience so that you're able to best show up and represent whatever part of the business you're responsible for, whether it's your team, your business unit, or your country. So I think that overcoming communication barrier is a real one. A lot of people will encounter it, but I think if you invest in that amongst many other skills, that would definitely really help. And then if it's any comfort to you, COVID has stopped all business travel. It has forced the world to learn to work remotely. right? So before I literally had to go on a plane and get on a, like get in the car and go and try and see my client to feel like I can build a relationship with them. That was definitely true when I was doing business development. But now with the world learning how to work remotely, it's actually an advantage if you're willing to use technology as well to help you make those connections more readily.
Okay. Then I just want to add one more point, because I work in terms of like global environment like Google. You will get the pressure from the internal competitors, even the college. But I want to give the message to the young generation, like you should be no fear, right? You need to just focus on your job and try to do the best, rather than just like imagine anything happen for you in the future, right? And like Tammy, even she don't have the background of the job she are doing, but she get the job and she perform excellent and get the promotion. And that's why even like local or global environment, you have different challenging, and you just be the best of person you are, then you should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit cliche to say like be a team player, but definitely be a team player, right? In marketing, I call it a team sport. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the great work we do in marketing, we cannot do without collaboration and support from our PR and comms team, right? Without our government relations team, without our legal team, without our sales team. There is a whole team of people that are necessary for you to do great work. And so earlier to your point, like that internal competition with your colleagues, I mean, you're not going to be in school anymore, like in a work setting. Approaching the work and appreciating as a team sport definitely will generate much better results.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. At the market, sale and marketing, can you share a little bit about like the best career path to develop in this area?
Like if you want to do sales or marketing?
Yeah. I mean, like what is the best career path? What is the just the personal, like for example, we can start like with agency or whatever in order to become like the what of excellent marketers in the career.
Yeah. Well, remember when I said know the user, know the magic, connect the two? And I love it because it is a pretty easy formula to remember, and it applies definitely in marketing, but you can also borrow it for sales as well. I actually came from a sales background. Right? Like, again, my first 2 jobs at Google were in our sales organization, running KPIs, making sure I hit my sales target, like building the pipeline, meeting with clients and all these things. So I am an example of someone who went from sales to marketing. And I would say there's 3 important lessons that I've taken with me as transferable skills. I think number 1, again, deeply understand the user. In a sales context, that would be your clients. Right? Spend time with them, understand their business, understand their P&L, understand their, competitive landscape. Just understand them as if you work for them. That lesson came from consulting as well. So I think that first point is very critical for both marketing and sales. The second is to listen to understand. And what I mean by that is like be really present to listen to the clients on what they're saying, what they really mean by that, and what they're not saying, right? And how do you hear what someone is not saying? Well, you hear it by paying attention, being present, not thinking about what you're going to say next after they say stuff, right? But like really try to make sense of what is the context in which they're sharing information with you, or what they really mean by given their context. So number 2 is listen to understand. And then number 3 is negotiate with respect. Definitely negotiate with respect. And I think you can have different outcomes in a negotiation, but at least the process of getting to the outcome needs to feel very transparent, very respectful, very collegiate. And even between sales and marketing, they're sister organizations, but they also have to negotiate back and forth as well. And so the same, those 3 things that I take to my clients, I also take to my internal business partners.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for your advice. And also, like for my experience, you don't look for the best career path because they have different direction in order to get to where you want. Just again, like you just focus to improve yourself and respect your opportunity because everyone have different opportunity. Then whatever opportunity you have, you try your best, and from that you can see your direction. Because like for example, even like for MBA for Success, we invite like all the successful business people, but doesn't mean you have to follow their footsteps, right? You can reference it, but you don't need to follow exactly where people run. Then from that you can build up your career, and maybe one day you can share to the young generation, like this Tammy today.
I just want to pick up on what you just said, right? Respect the opportunity. That is exactly what we say at Google. We say respect the user, respect each other, respect the opportunity. And so I love that respect the opportunity part. You know, if given that opportunity, do your best.
Thank you. Yeah. I think this one, okay, even the question, but I think Miss Tammy already guide you. How can I join the digital guru 2021 in Google?
I'm so glad someone was listening to that pitch. It worked. So Digital Guru 2021 has already started, and it's a cohort for the rest of the year. 2022 is coming very soon, and we open up invitations to marketers who work with, you know, some of the leading agencies who offer Google Ads. So, you know, after your MBA and you want to go join, like, you know, a digital marketing agency, you'll definitely, you know, be invited or nominated to attend. But I think you don't have to wait for Digital Guru, right? Again, I also mentioned Skillshop as a tool or a platform that you can get started with now, and you can actually get certified and put it on your LinkedIn profile that, you know, Google search, video, display, apps, etc. It's a better, not better, but it's a faster place to get started.
Okay, cool. Then everyone wants to have the update information for the marketers from Google. You just follow Miss Tammy Lincoln. And okay. Yeah. One of the questions is this better to immediate jump to MBA after graduation, or to busway after some year experience? You mean like what you think about, like, okay, study MBA in early after graduate the bachelor, or we need to wait for some year experience in order to do it?
I mean, for me, I decided to wait a couple of years and work and get some, you know, work experience before I went back for my MBA. And INSEAD, I think, tend to have more experienced students as well. So I think the first way to answer that is, like, it depends on what school you want to get into, right? Because there are other schools, let's say back in the US, who have much younger participants and cohorts. And it also depends on your goal after your MBA and what you want to do. You know, let's say you want to change careers or, like, go into a different sector post MBA. That implies you want to be employable, you know, by recruiters. And so think about what's going to help you get the most employable set of experiences. And often years of experience plus the MBA, you know, go hand in hand. The MBA alone isn't like a silver bullet that's going to make you jump like 10 years forward in work experience, but it is very helpful in signaling that, you know, you have that high potential.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Then I think like the answer of this can be like similar to all the guests we invite to the program, right? I mean, like definitely if you have experience, you can maximize the benefit of MBA. If you go straight from the undergraduate, still good, but definitely you cannot maximize the benefit like the other. And also you don't have too much thing to share with the other in the class, right? One more question. In form of the digital marketing, do you think that we should leverage the AI to predict the future customer intent in real life and individual experience across the channel?
I mean, for this, think about the work and the tracking and the manual input that's going to be required if you wanted to do it by hand. And even Google search tells us that people search for like brand new words every day that we didn't even know existed before. So ask yourself, like, how do I as a human being predict future intent if I don't allow technology to help me? So I am a huge believer of, you know, technology, automation, AI, playing that very assistive role in helping us stay on top of very quick changing, like, consumer intent. So I think the short answer to that is yes. The more eloquent answer to that is, what is your alternative? Do it by hand. I probably would free up a lot of my personal time if I were optimizing an account to do a lot of strategic planning and time to my clients instead.
Okay, thank you. Then, one question, but I think it's a pass, but someone want to know your experience how to apply the master scholarship, because you get the scholarship for your MBA, and what some audience want to learn from you. Any advice for that in order to get the scholarship for MBA? Yeah.
You know, I applied for a lot of scholarship for both my undergrad and my MBA. So this is a great question. And the reason I applied is, think of your opportunity cost, right? Like, how long does it take for you to write a great essay? A couple of hours? Okay, if you were to spend equal amount of couple of hours working, how much would you make in the form of salary, right? So it's worth the time. Put in the time to apply to as many scholarships that you're eligible for as possible. It sometimes can be a numbers game. I think number two is really assess your fit for that scholarship. Right? Behind every scholarship, there are benefactors, people who have given donations to recipients of this scholarship. There is a purpose to why they did that. So understand, what is that purpose of that scholarship that you're going for? And are you going to be one of the best representatives that's most deserving of that scholarship? And I think if you take that mindset on board, it will help you answer the question that gets closer to the purpose of why this scholarship is even offered. So I hope that helps.
Okay. Then I also want to share a little bit like a job. I see like some people they have the same application for all the company, right? Without invest your time for each application for the job you apply, and for the scholarship also the same. If you invest enough, you may have more chance rather than you just like, even like some people have very good GPA English score whatever, but still cannot get the scholarship. Like for example, Miss Tammy get a job even like she passed on like how to say more experienced people in sales and marketing at Google, right? Then again from that, invest for any opportunity you have. Okay. And the last question, okay, like you mentioned, the networking very important. So if I study MBA in Vietnamese school, how can I have that quality network you mentioned?
Well, I think you already are a great program, right? Like ISB Western Sydney, and I'm sure you'll come in contact with students from different cities, whether it's virtually today and hopefully in person in the future. So I think to really broaden your network, be very intentional about who and how you spend your time. Like, who do you spend your time with? How do you reach out to them? How are you introducing different perspective and worldviews into your social circles? And I think with the assistance of, again, technology and platforms, there's so many different ways to connect. It just takes a little bit of guts and courage, I think, to break outside of your comfort zone. But if you're willing to do it and do it with the intention of like, hey, I really just want to learn from your perspective, you may be really surprised by how many people can reciprocate that. Because trust me, there are also people out there who really want to understand the mindset and the thinking of young Vietnamese, future leaders as well. So think of it as like a two-way like value exchange where you have as much to give as you do to learn.
Thank you. Then I want to use the slogan of Western Sydney to add in the question you asked about unlimited. The network not only limit in the classmates you have, right? And that's why you can expand and develop that. And remember the advice from Miss Tammy. build up your relationship rather just expand the network, right? This is then from that you really can see the how to say the good sides of the relationship and make your life more happy. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, and I think like definitely still a lot of questions I want to raise, but I hope that not only in this webinar, maybe in the future opportunity, this company can come back ISB and give the lecture, sharing your experience with our MBA student and also our undergraduate student. Okay, and Phương Ánh, I return the stage for you. Right?
Yeah, em đây. Thank you so much for such an eye-opening sharing session, not only in the career development path of yours, but also how to maintain the mindset with you along the way. So we know that because we only asked for your 1.5 hours, so now we have to return you back to your loved ones, although we are still receiving a lot of questions from our audience. But I really want to ask you about one last thing.
Sure.
That is one very short advice from you to us. Yeah, your motto, for example. If it is in just one sentence, so what would it be? What will you tell us?
It's a great question, Phan. I think I would say, live your life with mindful purpose, and everything else will follow.
Thank you so much. Mindfulness is the one thing that we need to practice as much as possible along the way, not only in our personal life, but also in our professional life, right? Yes. Thank you, chị Tammy, so much. And one small secret for you is that many of our audience said that you have such a beautiful voice, and we all feel really mesmerizing when listening to the conversation with Thầy Quân. So in the future, when everything is getting normal again, we really hope that we can welcome you to our school in person and to discuss, to talk, and to share more with our MBA students. Will you accept this invitation of us?
Absolutely, I'd be most honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and please take care, and until we meet again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity and conversation.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice weekend. Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
We'll be in touch. Yeah.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Các bạn ơi, mình biết các bạn vẫn còn rất là nhiều điều muốn hỏi, nhưng mà do thời gian có hạn nên là chương trình phải kết thúc tại đây rồi. Viện ISB và Đại học Western Sydney sẽ liên tục update các sự kiện trên website và Facebook của trường để các bạn tiện theo dõi. Những câu hỏi dành cho chị Tammy á, chúng ta sẽ không còn được chị trả lời nữa, nhưng mà các bạn cứ tự nhiên hãy connect với chị Tammy trên LinkedIn của chị để có thể học hỏi được thêm nhiều nhất từ chị nha. Sau đây mời các bạn theo dõi những thông tin hữu ích liên quan đến chương trình Western Sydney MBA. Kính chào và hẹn gặp lại ở hội thảo MBA For Success số tháng 7 sẽ diễn ra vào ngày thứ Bảy 31 tháng 7 năm 2021. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.